has not returned yet. Who knows, maybe she was successful in her hunts. Oh, he's heard something. I think it could be Cedric coming to join us. I wonder how much of a busy night he had running around chasing birds. I wonder if he had any success. It doesn't look like it. And he was chasing the wrong type of birds for a leopard. Tiny little testiculars that are no longer than about 4 centimeters. And they were very high up in quite little trees. So I think it would have been very difficult for him to actually catch anything. Sorry guys, I just have to listen to the Game Drive radio for a second till Cedric gets here, and then I will hand over control of the sighting to him. Good morning, Purple Rain. Welcome back on the vehicle. Always great to have a question from you. Purple Rain would like to know, do I know where the Anderson male leopard is? I'm afraid I do not. I might be able to get an update from Cedric when he arrives. Maybe he's heard something, so I will try to find out for you, Purple Rain. Looks like he's heard something across the termite mound. But he looks as uncomfortable in the cold as I do. You can see in a very regal leopard pose. And we can see his right spot pattern nice and clearly there. So on the right he's got 3. The spot pattern I'm referring to is that the first line of spots above the whiskers. So you can see a very distinct 3 spots there on his right as he turns. And you can see he's all fluffed up from the cold. So guys, just hang on, Cedric's about to arrive, so I just need to chat to him quickly, and then I'll be back with you. And I'm just going to hand over control of the sighting to him. Said I've got your visual, keep going. Station handing over control of shadows, the sighting shadows Montoine to Cedric. Okay, back with you. Well, good morning, Jody and Christy. Welcome on this very cool and sunrise safari. And it is a sunrise safari full of kitty cats. We're in Kahumas with Scarlet Buffelshoek and Sindile here with me on Harathusa. So, 2 questions there. So someone says he looks a bit hungry. And he is, not too bad though. And then the next one is, does he just wait there for his mom? He will move around quite a bit in this general area where he has been left waiting for his mom. And he'll be waiting for her to come and fetch him and take him to a kill, hopefully. He will try kill small things like dwarf mongoose and whatever else he might be able to find. And he's not nearly yet at an age where he's going to become independent. He's still going to be very reliant on his mother for a while yet. Although young male leopards have been recorded becoming independent at around a year old. Generally in this area, it's about 2 years to actually even 2.5, 3 years. So I'm just going to, beg you on. Try to reposition the vehicle in a little bit, just to give the other guys a chance to have a good view as well. Morning, Zed. Good, thanks. Yeah. So while we're going to reposition to give the other guys a good chance to have a look, we're going to cross across to Scotty, who's with the Nkahuma Pride, and we'll be back with you a little later in the show.
Well, very well done to Brent in pulling off what he set out to do this morning, and that was to find Sindile. It's not an easy job, so very, very well done to him. And what a beautiful leopard you've been looking at. We've repositioned the vehicle to get a different angle on two lioness that we couldn't see too well from where we were initially parked. And again, we've got a great low angle. We're shooting from eye level with them. And look at the size of her paws. Isn't this an awesome angle to see? And we got lucky this morning. Thankfully, we didn't have to track them down. It was sheer fluke that we bumped into them, but we'll bank that, because sometimes you need luck on your side out here. Marianne has noticed that they all have a pinkish tinge on their chests and necks. And could that be from feeding recently? It certainly could be. And they all look quite full-bellied. I think they killed something of a medium size, possibly a kudu, or possibly two smaller animals, because they've all had a decent meal but are not extremely full-bellied. Wouldn't it be wonderful to know what exactly they did catch and how that whole event unfolded? Good to know that they were successful, though, because earlier on in the night they were seen in a failed buffalo hunt, but that was early on, probably 12 hours ago. And they obviously managed to find something else between then and now. Look at the little foot twitching as if it's got some earphones plugged in, as if it's listening to music. That's awesome. I wonder what song it's singing away to itself. So thanks for sending that through, Marianne, and it's really great when you do send through observations. Quite often you will detect things before we do, and it's great when you alert us to that, so thank you. There's some Aramark babblers calling off in the distance. You may have heard some go-away birds quang, letting off a few calls earlier, and the bush is slowly coming alive now that it's warming up. A lot of the animals out here will take some time to adjust to or from the cold evenings. Not these lion, though. They'll be loving this cool weather. Shifting your head, there is something up ahead there. Casey would like to know, what is the proper reaction for a lion charge? You typically want to stand your ground. That is first and foremost, and also maintain eye contact. It can also sometimes bode in your benefit to shout and make a noise, wave your arms high in the air, making yourself look bigger. And if you're in a group, it's best to stick together, because then you become one unit and one force to be reckoned with, and the lion will just see one large mass that it would think twice about jumping onto. So standing your ground is critical. If you try and run from lion or just about any other animal out here, not only will you give them the impression that they are stronger than you and on top of the scenario, but they will also have their natural chase mechanism triggered. And most importantly, everything out here is faster than us. Every single mammal basically that we see will be faster than us. There may be one or two that aren't, but hippo, elephant, buffalo, lion, impala, ostrich, and anything else you can think of will catch you. It's just a matter of time. So running from an animal means you're just going to be out of breath when they kill you. So it's not something I would suggest. And by standing your ground, you counter-react what animals will usually do when encountered by them, and that makes them think twice about committing to a full attack. There will come a time, though, when you do need to back up and give the lion some space, but it needs to be done slowly and whilst you're facing forwards towards them. You don't want to turn your back to them, you always want to keep facing them, and very slowly, almost moonwalk backwards, because you do want to extract yourself from the dangerous situation, but it needs to be done very slowly. Each scenario, though, is very different, and it's difficult when training up-and-coming guides as to what exactly to do in any given scenario, because there are always different variables that could play out, and that's also important to remember. Good question, though, and it really is a rush. It's not something we want to force upon the lions, but from time to time, when looking for them, you may startle them and get a little bit of a charge, or it could simply be one pride that is notorious for being more aggressive to us on foot. The Ottawa pride, which is a pride of lions that I viewed that still occurred to the south of us in the Sabi Sands, are a pride that back when I was spending time with them 3 or 4 years ago, they were extremely aggressive on foot, and basically every time we tracked them we would know and expect a charge. What have you seen up there? She's still staring very intently, so possibly a small antelope coming down to drink. We can't see from the angle where we're at. But where we parked, judging by the angle that she's looking at, we wouldn't be able to see whatever it is. There's too many thick bushes between us and there. My predictions are that this lioness is going to realize she's been left alone by the other one and let off 1 or 2 yawns, possibly retreats, although she does seem captivated by whatever it is she's seen. Look at those eyes. Okay, well, I do just want to give it another minute or so to see if we don't get a yawn and then a movement from her. I think what's distracting her from moving to the rest of the pride is whatever she has seen up ahead. Well, Janet is interested to know if what we've just been discussing regarding yawning and it being a common display or behavioral movement before big cats get active, is that also applicable for dogs? And yes, to a degree, I've noticed wild dogs are similar to that, and also hyena. I've also even seen warthogs in the morning waiting to exit their burrow, yawning. That's a hilarious yawn to see because they can only open their mouth such a narrow gap, but you can see them yawning away. It's one of my favorite things to actually see out here, and sadly I haven't been able to share it with you before, but seeing a warthog yawn is really interesting. And again, it was early morning while they're waking up trying to get more oxygen into their body, but it certainly is applicable with most of the predators we see out here. Carolina in Santa Monica. What would happen if we were to give a very slow blink to a lion? Now, I'm assuming this is when we are on foot, as this is a subject we've been discussing this morning. If you come across a lion on foot and you're giving them a stare down and you do a long, slow blink, what would happen? I'm not too sure, but whoever is willing to do a long, slow blink when a lion is under attack or thinking about attacking you deserves a trophy for bravery, because it is not something you would want to do. It would be horrifying. So I'm not too sure what would happen in that scenario. It could induce them to attack because they've noticed that you are short-circuiting, essentially. But it's a scenario that I've never experienced. It is believed, I've heard, with people with domestic cats, though, that a long, slow blink is behavior relating to affection, and if your cat does give you a long, slow blink, it's kind of telling you how much it loves you. I think that is not necessarily false, and it could very well be true, but that's different in that you've bonded with that domestic cat to a degree of friendship or a relationship, you could say, even though it is human animal. Even though we spend time with these animals, we don't bond with them and cuddle with them, so I doubt a long blink will convey the same message. Well, this is great. We've got a lioness in the foreground with those beautiful yellow eyes, and in the tree in the background we've got a Burchell starling. So two very beautiful animals here at Djuma, one feathered, one furry, but great to have them in the same shot. Yesterday we had a leopard and an elephant in the same shot, so it seems like Mother Nature is providing us with some great combo deals at the moment. Well, there's some bad news, folks, and it sounds like Brent may have lost Sindile, but he'd like to tell you about what's happened and give you an update on what his next plans are. So we will see you all a bit later.
Welcome back, everyone. We're still sitting here with this young male leopard. He's just heard a little bird alarming and he's picked up his head. Obviously, at this age, he's very, very curious. As we saw last night, he was chasing testiculars around and around with very little success. He's got a nice high vantage point up on his termite mound. So if any predators like a hyena or a lion were to come, or another male leopard, he would hopefully see or hear them first and be able to make his escape. At the moment, it looks like he's trying to avoid the cold as much as I am, except I'm lucky enough to have a blanket, and he is not. Morning, Nora. Welcome on the Sunrise Safari, Nora. Nora would like to know if it had been Shadow that I walked into and not this little guy, would she have been as calm on foot? Probably, Nora. He was quite well hidden when I first saw him, even though I was quite close. Most leopards will try sort of flatten themselves to the ground on foot as long as you don't sort of make it obvious that you've spotted them and walked past. Although certain leopards do tend to slink away. I have seen Shadow slink away from us on foot before, but so far I don't think so. I think Shadow would have probably reacted very, very similarly to what he did. Morning, Norman from Sohab. Welcome on the Sunrise Safari, Norman. Norman said, obviously, we've all heard about that guide who was mauled by a leopard in the Kruger Park recently. And he'd like to know why the leopards in the Sabi Sands seem so calm in comparison to the leopards in the Kruger. Well, Norman, the Kruger is a very different type of area. Kruger is what you would call high-density, low-income ecotourism. So you have lots of people paying a little bit, whereas Sabi Sands is what you would call low-density, high-income. So one of the reasons that our animals stay so relaxed is we put never more than 3 vehicles into a sighting. So obviously that is to remove any pressure that these animals might feel from the vehicles. Where there's Kruger, it is a public place, it's a national park. You can have 20 vehicles in a sighting. I've seen very, very relaxed leopards in Kruger, just as relaxed as the ones in the Sabi Sands. That particular leopard had been in a fight and was very badly injured, and so the behavior was abnormal rather than normal. And it's just one of those things. And in an area where you have that many vehicles traversing every day, unfortunately, sometimes there are going to be accidents, even though they are very, very seldom. The other thing is a lot of leopards in the Kruger aren't relaxed because vast sections of the Kruger are not open to the public. So those leopards never see cars or people. So they tend to react very differently and tend to be very shy and slink away from the vehicles in the park. In your main tourist areas, like around Skakuza and Lower Sabi and Satara, the leopards there are just as relaxed as they are here in the Sabi Sands. Oh, tired kitty. Seems like after all the action we saw him doing last night, he's been quite lazy this morning. Probably had a busy night of chasing testiculars. I'm pretty sure Tingana probably thinks that this is his progeny, so Tingana would probably just ignore him. I'm not sure whether Shadow mated with Mvula as well before this was born. Sean's nodding his head, giving me some information from across there. So Mvula would probably also consider this to be his progeny. So Mvula and Tingana he'd be quite safe with. However, I think if the Anderson male had to come across, he would try to kill him. And this is probably the reason we think Shadow's been moving further and further into Djuma and Voyatela, which is Mvula's territory, and where Tingana is now pushing Mvula. And it's probably to avoid the Anderson male while this guy is still of an age that he would be killed, and he would definitely be killed by the Anderson, because if the Anderson male were to kill him, it would immediately get a Shadow to come into estrus again. And as we were discussing that really interesting and new data, that female leopards and female lions will quite often, once they have had sort of a territory takeover, they will come into a false estrus, and they will actually mate with these new males, but not actually ever get pregnant from it. And only the second estrus in about 3 months' time would they actually get pregnant from. And they think this is a sort of a defense mechanism to make sure that these new males that they're mating with are actually going to hang around and keep territory. So I hope you guys are getting some great screenshots here. He is posing quite nicely, even though the light isn't so wonderful. But it is always amazing to be able to spend such quality time with these animals. Hi, John from sunny California. Hopefully you're having a sunnier day than we are. John would like to know, he said he's just heard that Anderson had a battle with Lamula to the west of us, and he came out victorious. So it's wanting to know whether him pushing now further into Tingana's territory, is it just him trying to enlarge his territory? Most definitely, obviously, from a male leopard's point of view, the larger the territory they control, with the more females in it, the more of his DNA he'll be able to spread. So that is obviously his first prize. He is trying to extend his gene line, so he'll want to mate and sire as many cubs as possible within the territory. So really interesting time now with all the different movements of male leopards at the moment. And yesterday we saw Tingana further east than we've ever seen him before, very much deep into what is traditionally called Mvula's territory.
Up into the wind, smelling the air for any potential signs or clues. You can see she's almost drinking it in. Interesting to note that Sindila is a bit nervous this morning, but again, just like I was saying earlier, how the wind can benefit predators in muffling their approach as they may stalk their prey, it will also make certain predators, like a young male leopard, feel uneasy because he won't know if he's being stalked by anything. Well, one happy family having a snooze. We probably won't spend too much longer here. It's a tricky one though, because there is a chance that something could come and they could try and catch it, which is something we would like to show you and like to be a part of, or spectate at least. But when that may happen, we can't be sure. So we're probably gonna head off and see what other action we can find. I can't resist going to look for any sign of Tingana or Mvula. But we will spend a little bit longer here, answer a few more questions, and then head off and see what other animals are out there. We've got a question through from Tula, and that's a name I haven't heard before, so good to have you on board, and thanks for sending your question through. Tula has noticed that these lion all look fit and healthy and also quite young, and would like to know, what age are they? Well, they are varying ages. There's 2 older lioness, who I think are the core of this pride, and 3 slightly younger ones that are coming into the age now where they should be sexually mature. So there should be 5 sexually mature lioness quite shortly within this one, probably between 7 and 10 years old. And the 3 that are coming into sexual maturity will just be approaching 4. Their brother, Junior, a young male, also from a similar litter, I believe. It's also around 3.5, 4 years old. Oh, a little sneeze there. There's a lot of dust around at this time of year, as well as grassies that may get into the nose. Oh, look at that. Maybe I'll let off another yawn and he'll display his teeth for us. Or is it a fur ball that he may be wanting to get rid of? Let's watch closely here. Well, now that we've got such a tight angle on his nose, it's going to be a great opportunity to wanting to know if pink noses help you to assume the age of an animal or determine the age of the animal. And yes, to a degree, the general rule is that younger lion and leopard will have pink noses and they will become darker as they become older. But it's no guarantee, and you do sometimes get some older lioness as well as leopard who do have pink noses. So it can be used as a rough guide, but there's no strict rules confirming that. Oh, you can see that lioness picked up her head very quickly behind him. But again, in these windy conditions, she could have just heard a rustle of the leaves blowing in the wind that got her alert. In these cloudy conditions, you can see these lions are very, very relaxed and comfortable. They are also full-bellied, which is something we need to factor into their equation. But Brer would like to know, how do temperatures affect lion? And they can tolerate very cold temperatures, from what I've seen, and are typically more comfortable in cooler weather. So it's more likely for us to see them active during the daylight hours in our winter months. Whereas in summer, unless they've got a very good opportunity to hunt something that may stumble upon them as they sleep during the day, they will typically not move during most of the daylight hours because it's extremely hot and humid here, and most animals will prefer to move at night. And it kind of makes perfect sense for them, with the ability to see very well in the dark and therefore hunt successfully under cover of darkness. It goes hand in hand with keeping cool during the day and having good hunting opportunities in the dark. So temperature certainly does play a role on them. But it's
probably only about 10 or 11 months old.
Hello, Jan from Philly. I hope your summer is warmer than our winter at the moment, Jan. Jan would like to know, she's noticed that at the bottom of the leopard's body, the rosettes are solid, or it's more solid spots rather than rosettes. Is this the norm? It is, Jan. You'll notice that on most leopards. All the extremities and stuff seem to be far more solid spots than the actual rosettes. Moving through to the belly, which is obviously quite white and fluffy. But obviously when they're lying like this, as you can see, they'll try keep the sort of dark and spotted parts visible. And it works as camouflage. So even though we can see them very clearly now, if we had to zoom out, and we go to a full wide, you can notice as we go further and further, he becomes slightly less and less visible.
Very confident, with life. He's not worried or scared or anything.
No. See, if you had to see that from a distance, I mean, it almost looks like a tree stump. Except for the little ear flick there. But you can see how that camouflage works, even in an open piece of ground like he's lying at the moment. So really, really incredible. What we're going to do now is we're just going to try reposition a little bit so we can get a different angle on him, and hopefully we're still going to spend a little bit more time here. I've just got that sort of little nagging itch at the back of my head that says possibly Shadow's going to arrive. So we're going to move so we can have a different angle on him. So if we come out a little bit, Chandra, and down to the left, you'll see there's a little hollow on the side of the termite mound. There we go. So that little sort of, where that little tuft of grass is there, that's where I spotted him while I was walking, and he was flat into that hole. He sort of almost melted into the termite mound. And since we've been here, he's moved all of a meter to the top of the termite mound. Oh, it's cold.
Bigger ears.
Hello, Jerry from Maryland. Welcome on the Sunrise Safari, even though there's no sun, Jerry. Great to have you with us. I just found out as well that the last time we saw Shadow and this little guy together was about 4 days ago on an impala kill, which was stolen by hyenas. But Jerry would like to know, sorry Jerry, I just thought I heard something there. Sorry, Jerry, I was just listening there. I thought I might have heard some alarm calls in the distance. Well, back, Jerry, I would like to know, do I know where Shadow is? So, Jerry, we tracked Shadow yesterday, and she crossed into Juma. We lost her tracks quite close to the main access road to the Vuyatela camp. So, possibly she's still on Juma. She might have done a big loop, which she often does, and then come back into the sort of western sections of the north, or of our northern neighbour.
Most of them don't make it a year, so it's pretty pointless giving them a name, and then you get to know them, and then everyone starts getting personally attached to them, and they get killed by either another leopard or a hyena or whatever. But usually if they've made it a year, then we've managed to resolve.
So we're going to cross across to Scotty, who's with something a little different, and we'll sit here and we'll be back with you a little later in the show.
Well, welcome back, everyone. And you can tell how close we are to this buffalo. This is awesome. And look at the oxpecker. Busy doing a great job and looking for any parasites to feed on, and that will also help rid this big old Cape buffalo of these blood-sucking parasites. What an awesome view this is. It's a young red-billed oxpecker, and that's why it is yet to get the red bill and bright yellow ring around the eye. It would have been born in the summer months, probably 6 months ago. And by born, I mean hatched. As you can see, the buffalo is enjoying this downtime, and he's been chewing the cud. There he goes again. And we're going to send you back to Brent. We just thought we'd show you that quick close-up of the oxpecker, and now that it's moved off, back to Sandile.
Welcome back, everyone. Unfortunately, we just flew away, but one of the terrors of Sandile that terrorized him last night, the little rattling testicular. I'm just going to grab my book and I'll show you what a rattling testicular looks like. And that is what he was chasing around with very little success last night. There was one who just, I can hear them calling quite close to us here, but they've disappeared. Many testiculars, and a bird is often referred to them as LBJs, which means little brown job. And quite often the only way to tell the difference between them is from their call. So there we go, number one is the rattling testicular. He's got a very distinct rufous camp, nice little sort of pinkish legs, but they are quite difficult to tell apart, testiculars. That's what he was chasing around, for those who were on the Sunset Safari last night with us, chasing, and no success. We're going to sit here for a little bit longer and see if he actually does anything. Otherwise, we're also going to move along and see what else we can find out here. Maybe head down towards the Arathusa waterhole. Not sure yet. Michelle from Massachusetts, not from Boston, but still a Bruins fan. So Nice to hear that. My mom actually lived in Massachusetts for a while, so I know a little bit about the sporting teams in that area. Michelle's asking about that white and dark tip on the back of the leopard's ears there. It seems more pronounced in this young male than in other leopards, and that is probably because he is young. As they get older and the flies start biting and tattering their ears and they get torn, that will not be as pronounced. So it is probably just because he's young and he hasn't had too much of the sort of hardness of life out in the bush yet. So there we can see it quite nicely, what Michelle was talking about, how the top half of the ears is lighter and the bottom half got that dark patch. And that is a following mechanism. So if you follow a leopard from behind it, that dark patches, that dark and white is quite easily discernible. So it'll be more for leopard females with cubs who are looking to, and the cubs will be looking for that to follow. And of course that wonderful white tip to the tail. So I'm just going to move again a little bit, see if we can get a little bit closer to it. And get a nice close-up on his schnoz. Is the angle going to be too much for you? How's that? Hello, little man. So we are now eye level with the little guy. Using, of course he moves a little bit. Very, very still morning. We can hear a few birds, but this wind makes it very difficult to hear a lot of other things. And you'll notice his ears are constantly moving, just checking for all the surrounding noises to make sure there isn't any danger possibly approaching him. You can see that wind gusting, moving the grass stalks around him. Oh, poor over eyes. It's so cold. Where's my mom with my dinner? Morning, Lucy from Columbus, Ohio. Welcome on the Sunrise Safari, Lucy. Lucy would like to know, do lions and leopards ever yawn from boredom? No, they don't. They are yawning for lack of oxygen and to sort of get their oxygen going, and generally you'll notice they yawn quite a lot before they move, and that's just more to wake up. So they do not yawn from boredom. And even us in humans, when we yawn, it isn't exactly from boredom. It is as a result of boredom that we become a little bit bored, and our body starts going into a sort of slightly more vegetative state. And to try to kick us out of that, we yawn to try and inhale more oxygen into our bodies. So guys, I don't think much is going to be happening here. Shadow's obviously off hunting, and she's left Sindile in this area. Oh, there's a bit of movement. She's left Sindile in this area to wait for her to return, and looks like he had a night full of adventure. So this morning he is quite stationary, but hopefully when we try to find him again on the sunset safari, he will be a little bit more active, but it has been so great to spend so much time with this little guy, even though he has been sleeping most of the time. So I think we're going to meander on, see what else we can find, and we'll definitely come back to check on him on the sunset safari. Okay, goodbye, little Aura, and we will hopefully see you a little later. Behave yourself, don't get into too much trouble while we're gone.
Wonderful. Still a few more on the way, but that bit's not. Yeah, I lie. Now also getting excited and doing a little trot across the road. Brent, welcome back, and no major updates other than the Nkuhumas at Buffelshoek Dam. Okay, well, that looks like most of the herd is now crossed, and they are such wonderful animals. Sometimes we do neglect them a little bit because they are numerous, but there are so many beautiful animals out here that we can show you, and this is certainly one of them. Now, as we drive along, some of you may have just joined the safari. We got off to a great start. Brent found the young male leopard Sindile. We managed to find the Nkuhuma Pride of Lion, both of whom were fast asleep. So we've headed off in search of more action. If any of you are interested to know any questions or send through your comments to us, please do so. It's you would hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, or send an email to questions@wildearth.tv. So send your question through, and let's chat about the morning and anything you may want to know.